The crowd gasped as the tourist's hand snapped across the royal guard's face. A stunned silence followed. No one had ever dared to do this. But what happened next wasn't just unexpected. It was legendary. In mere seconds, the arrogant traveler learned a brutal lesson she'd never forget. Because this wasn't just any guard, he was bound by duty, but not by silence. And when he struck back, the world took notice. Was this the moment justice finally fought back? The Black Royal Guard stood tall, his posture unshaken, his gaze fixed straight ahead. He had trained for years, conditioned to remain stoic no matter the provocation. Tourists came and went, snapping photos, some testing boundaries, but none had ever crossed the line until today. Among the crowd, a woman with an air of entitlement smirked as she edged closer. She'd seen videos of guards standing motionless, refusing to react. To her, it was a game, one she was determined to win. She leaned in, taunting him, laughing as cameras recorded her every move. But then, in a moment of arrogance, she did the unthinkable. With a sharp crack, her palm met his face. Gasps rippled through the crowd. No one had ever dared to strike a royal guard, and no one expected what happened next. A stunned hush fell over the crowd. The slap echoed in the air, disbelief painted across every face. The tourist smirked, folding her arms, waiting for the guard's reaction. She had seen videos. British royal guards never flinched, never broke their stance. She expected him to do nothing. But this wasn't just any guard. His jaw tightened, his fingers twitched at his side. He had endured insults before, mocking, laughing, even people getting too close, but never this. The uniform he wore represented honor, discipline, but it did not mean he had to accept violence in silence. The tourist's laughter rang out, sharp and taunting. See, just a statue. In a costume, she sneered, turning to the cameras. The bystanders held their breath, some raising their phones higher, sensing something was about to happen. Then he moved. In a swift, controlled motion, the guard's hand shot forward, gripping his rifle with precision. His boots hit the ground. As he stepped toward her, towering over her now, his presence commanding, undeniable. The smirk faded from her face. For the first time, she looked afraid. The air was electric with anticipation. Would he break protocol? Would he retaliate? No one could have predicted what happened next. The guard stepped forward, his presence no longer passive, no longer just a symbol of discipline. The tourist staggered back, her confidence cracking as she realized, this time, she had gone too far. With precise control, the guard raised his voice, his tone sharp as steel. "Step away!" The force of his command sent a jolt through the crowd. It was not a request, it was an order. But the tourist wasn't ready to back down. "You can't touch me," she scoffed, still clinging to her arrogance. "Cameras recorded every second." She expected humiliation, silence, maybe even the guard backing away in fear. Instead, he acted. In a single, practiced motion, he shifted his rifle, not as a weapon, but as a warning. The barrel angled ever so slightly, his posture unyielding. His stance made one thing clear: this was not a man to be disrespected. The tourist's face paled, her breath hitched. The realization struck her all at once. She had no power here. The crowd whispered, murmurs growing louder. Some nodded in approval. Others watched, transfixed, waiting to see if the guard would take it further. And then, as if the weight of the moment had finally sunk in, the tourist did something no one expected. She turned and ran. The tourist vanished into the crowd, her arrogance shattered, her laughter replaced by shame. The cameras that once recorded her mockery now captured something else: justice, dignity, and a moment she would never forget. But the guard? He remained still, unshaken, his honor intact. He hadn't needed to strike in anger. His presence alone had been enough to remind the world that respect is not optional. That day, he didn't just defend himself. He defended every person who had ever been mocked, belittled, or underestimated. The video spread like wildfire. Some cheered, calling it long overdue karma. Others debated whether the guard had gone too far. But one truth remained. For once, silence was not mistaken for weakness, because this wasn't just about a slap. It was about something far greater. How many times had people like her walked away unpunished? How many times had history let them? And the bigger question, what happens the next time someone like her thinks they can get away with it?